That's incredible. And you saw change, like, of
Oh,
course. But the
well,
brain scientist was like, what did he say with your results?
well, he actually, it led him to wanting to do a proper study, because obviously this wasn't like a scientific study, right? I was
Yeah,
the only
yeah, yeah.
data point. It was just my brain. But what he saw in my brain was about 5 years of healing in my cerebellum. And then my cognitive memory score went from the 50th percentile of men in America to the 99th percentile of men in
Wow.
America. So like
That's insane.
my memory, my father had, he had dementia. So like there's brain stuff that I'm constantly thinking about. And yeah, it was dramatic. But I would say even beyond that, beyond the brain stuff, what started off being an experiment about not looking at a phone, quickly within 3 days was no longer about a phone. It was all about living. It was all about all these things we've forgotten how to do as we live,
Yeah, yeah.
that I'm again trying to help people reconnect back with. So the book's not about your phone. I think people pick it up thinking,
Same.
oh my
Yeah,
gosh, like,
yeah.
it's going to help me. It's going to help me not look at my phone. I think quickly they're going to realize, oh, wait a second, the phone's not the problem. We've got to reconnect with community and relationships and all these things that we've forgotten how to do because of our phones.
Yeah. But like watching you from afar, and I don't live in your house, but I would say you're pretty intentional about that. Like it's a priority for you. So what did you
Yeah.
notice in those 3 weeks with your family that ramped up or that were different and are connected? Because it wasn't like, and I know this is your job, but I don't
Sure.
like view you as a person that is only here and neglecting your kids. But what happened when those 3 weeks?
Yeah, those 3 weeks, they were, well, I'll put it this way. There was a quote that I quote. My daughter at the time, she was 18, looked at me and she said, probably week 2 of the 3 with them. And she said, Dad, this is the purest version of you I've ever had.
Wow.
And I was like, woof, like,
Wow.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
It's amazing.
That, I think that quote speaks to itself. Yeah, like I've always been intentional. I've always been, I think, intentional with my kids, but they saw a gigantic difference in me to where when it was time for me to fly back to LA to get my phone from my best friend and get my brain rescanned, everybody cried. My whole family did. Like Heather cried.
Wow.
Everybody was like, oh, we're going to miss this version of you. That was pretty powerful. Yeah.
So what does it look like now? So, I've mentioned like 12 times, but this is your job. You are online a lot. What does it look like now? How did you
Yeah.
learn from that? And then how do you still engage in your job?
Yeah. I think the beauty of it is what I learned from the monks and what I learned from the Amish is what I really implemented into my life that reduced my screen time tremendously. So I still, if you look at the content I was posting before this experiment and then the content I'm posting after the experiment, you wouldn't think anything changed, which is the beautiful part of it, is that I'm still doing what I do. I'm still on my phone. I'm still making videos. I'm still doing all these things. But my screen time went from 7.5 hours a day to now I'm about 3 hours a day. So that's 4 hours a day that I've cut off of my screen time, which actually equals close to 3 months a year that I'm adding of living back into my life. And so, what I've done is I've fallen back in love with wondering, right? That's something that we no longer do. And wondering is extinct now because of Google. And so,
Yeah.
So what I do now is when I wonder something, I don't pick up my phone. I just wonder. I just sit in it. I just don't believe that we were created to know everything. So like, I've implemented no more Googling for me when I just want to if I have a question, I want to find somebody to have a conversation with them.
That's so good.
About the question, right? Like, don't go to Google. Like, well, who do I know that can help me answer this question? Call them. Next thing you know, we're having a conversation. Hey, let's have lunch. Relationship is made. I mean, all kinds of things like that. I no longer use GPS. As much as that's like, that wasn't true in LA last night, but like around Nashville, like I know where I'm going, but so many times, like we open our phone and, we put in we've been at Chick-fil-A 4,000 times, but we put it in there just in case it can save us a minute. And I'm sitting here going, you know what, maybe that the 5 minutes we're going to sit in traffic is actually 5 minutes I'm supposed to spend in silence, or 5 minutes I'm supposed to spend just stopping and slowing down with the Lord and